Power. Kids think about heroes with superpowers and run around the house, mimicking their selfless heroics. In adulthood, we continue our infatuation with power to unfortunately gain advantage over others. I'd spent all day in a conference room with our CEO and several high-ranking executives from a Fortune 5 company. We were walking through the last details of the largest deal of my sales career. All was going well. My day-to-day client contact and I were emailing across the table about how smooth the day was progressing. We were very excited. At the afternoon break, the leading executive on the client side asked to speak to me privately. Of course, I thought. In my egocentric mind, I thought he wanted to thank me for putting together such a well-thought-out solution. Wrong. As soon as the door shut behind him, he turned and moved aggressively towards me. He was several inches taller than me, and suddenly, right in my face, looking down at me in anger, he starts yelling at me I must take $1 million off the deal or he was going to kill it. He then threw several vulgar sentences at my character and waited for a reply. Literally, inside, I was actually trembling with fear. His request, though, was way below the 5% authority I had to reduce the cost at the last minute to get a deal signed. However, there was the principle of this situation. I was being abused by someone who thought they had power over me. I looked him in the eyes and said the price was negotiated with your procurement group, and after appropriate discounts, we all agreed that the price was fair. We negotiated the price in good faith, and we will not discount anymore. He yelled more vulgarities at me and left the room. As we gathered in the conference room, I looked across at my day-to-day client and gave her the deal is dead look. Then I sat there trying not to make eye contact with anyone on my team, waiting for the sledgehammer to swing my way. It never came. The deal was signed. Unfortunately, many of you have felt the abuse of power in even more devastating ways. You've been abused because of the color of your skin, your gender, your political views, your religious affiliation. We watch government leaders, business leaders, and religious leaders use power in corrupt ways to remain in control or fulfill their salacious desires. Power seems to be very bad. Where is Superman when you need him? The universe teaches us that this is not the intent of power. As we study the universe, we discover that power is to bring about a completely different result. Quick review. In episode 1, we made a decision to pursue meaning instead of meaninglessness. This meaning will reveal itself as we study the characteristics of the universe. We concluded with truth number 1. There is a superior being who wants to be known. The first characteristic explored today helps us understand the proper use of power and how Christ uses power. Scientists believe the universe burst on the scene 14 to 15 billion years ago. This number is derived from understanding how fast the galaxies are traveling away from each other and then working the clock backwards to see when the Big Bang occurred. The speed at which the universe expands is called the Hubble constant. Edwin Hubble, famous astronomer of the 20th century, was the first to realize that all the galaxies observed in the early 1900s were moving quickly away from the Earth. Assuming this expansion was uniform, there had to be a constant number to represent the speed of expansion. This number became known as the Hubble constant. Now, what we want to do is understand how fast the universe is expanding. As you look at this cube, it represents a megaparsec. A megaparsec is 3.26 million light years in any direction, three-dimensional. The mathematical formula says that the universe is expanding every second 4,000 megaparsecs. So there we were a second ago. A second later, there are 4,000 megaparsecs. In a linear example, that's 130 million light years of expansion, except the expansion is not linear, it's in every direction. And so now, in the next second, every one of these cubes exceeds the universe expand from its perspective another 4,000 megaparsecs. Now let's bring our focus to our own celestial neighborhood and consider the power of the sun. The sun sustains life on Earth, regulates a consistent temperature across the globe, and bathes the surface of the Earth with more power than we humans can consume. For example, if the sunlight that strikes the state of Texas was captured through solar panels, the amount of electricity generated every day is more than 300 times the amount of energy generated currently by all the global power plants. The sun's power generates an overabundance of energy for our needs. And the sun is not unique, as many suns exist. The sun is classified as a yellow dwarf star, and scientists have calculated that as many as 7 billion yellow dwarf stars exist within the Milky Way galaxy only. Even though an average size within the category, our sun holds 99.89% of the entire mass of our solar system. Our average sized sun can hold 1 million Earths within its sphere. Massive, common, and an over-provider of energy that balances our Earth's climate, which allows us to inhabit this pale blue dot. This universe is an unimaginable display of power. So what do we do? What do we learn? An extensive amount of power works around the clock to maintain our inhabitable space. The character of this power is benevolent and creative. Can we assume this benevolence and creativity represent the character of Christ? Yes. What do I mean by benevolent and creative? Benevolent in the sense the universe serves us. The universe continues to expand, challenging our known laws of physics instead of collapsing, all the while providing an abundance of minerals and dust to sustain itself and us. Our sun pours a balanced amount of energy to create the right environment for life. We do not often think of this, yet we are the recipients of the universe's benevolent power. The power of the universe is creative, as we see the continued manufacturing of essential elements. Scientists state that hydrogen and helium were created by the Big Bang. The heavier elements of carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and iron come from galaxies. Galaxies form because gas and dust are present and eventually turn this matter into stars. When the stars age over millions of years, many finally explode into supernovas, creating even more gas, dust, and minerals. Now we can appreciate the appropriate use of power. The appropriate use of power supports results that are benevolent and creative. And if the universe reflects the character of Christ, we can now understand how the superior being uses power. Not understanding the true nature of power has led to many misunderstandings of how Christ interacts with humans. Many gods throughout civilization have been described as angry and needing appeasement. For this reason, we are wary of giving allegiance to any god, for we fear what the god will demand. Will the God treat us benevolently? Will the God provide good fortune? Will the God demand sacrifice and impoverishment? Will the God deal appropriately with my enemies? Will the God protect me from evil? Will the God allow compromise and negotiation? I hope so. Will the God allow me to live my life my way? The one I create will. In essence, what is the relationship between humans and this superior being? We now know these questions are not the correct questions to ask. As we see the benevolent and creative power exhibited throughout the universe, we can take comfort in Christ feeling benevolent and creative toward us as humans. When I bring these thoughts down to my own experience, I feel the power to stand outside my current experience with confidence. All in all, I'm surrounded by the unbounding power of benevolence and creativity. This universe allows me to understand the overriding result of all this power is to provide me with a sense of protection and anticipation, even though my life experiences often leave me feeling vulnerable and despondent. I enjoy benevolent protection due to dynamics of the universe supporting life and constancy. At the highest level, Christ cares and acts. The constant act of the universe replenishing itself reminds us also that we have creative power. We can create better experiences. We can create environments. We can create relationships, and we can create a better future as we learn to live with and harness the vast amount of power surrounding us. And the more I can bring these thoughts into my daily life, the more I can balance my perspective on the good and not so good experiences of my life. We do not always experience environments defined as benevolent and creative. We have periods of life where we feel vulnerable, living with scarce resources. Relationships are destroyed, which leads to moments of isolation instead of protection and anticipation. How do I harness this power to feel the benevolence and creativity for a better life? I learn to receive the power of Christ. Whew. No matter the number of painful experiences I encounter, I remember an entire universe works on my behalf to sustain my life. An entire universe continues to create itself, which encourages me to have hope that I can create something new. These thoughts invigorate me and encourage me to use my power in benevolent and creative ways. This leads us to truth number 2. Benevolent protection and creative opportunity define the true nature of power and of Christ. My buddy Luke said, "And the power of the Lord was present for him to heal the sick." That's how Christ used all this power, benevolently, creatively. I know what many of you are thinking. Power is an evil weapon to oppress people. We will discuss in the next episode how power is abused and how to gravitate back to Christ's characteristics of power. Remember to follow Reconsider Christ on Instagram for thoughtful reminders of what we are exploring and experiencing throughout Season 1. Peace.